Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're discussing, or we have been discussing over the last several weeks, about the qualities of Sri Krishna. So I'm actually going to be referring to this book here. It's called The Nectar of Devotion, which you may have seen before. In previous classes, when Ganesham Prabhu was giving, he was actually referring to Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is the graduate study, or rather the postgraduate study. So you have Bhagavad Gita, which is the undergraduate study to spiritual life. Just like when you enroll into university, you're a freshman in the first year, right? So that's your undergraduate bachelor's degree. So Bhagavad Gita is like that. It starts off by discussing who you are. Very simple knowledge. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yovanam jaram tata dehantara praptir dhirastatra namuyati. Krishna says right at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, you need to know who you are. You're lamenting because, first of all, you don't know who you are. You're lamenting, you don't want to fight this great battle because you're under the bodily conception of life. And Srila Prabhupada calls this skin disease. So he says, we identify ourselves with being the body. When the reality is, in any, not just the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic tradition, but you take any spiritual philosophy, any religious tradition around the world, we understand that the body is just a covering for the soul, right? And the real us, the consciousness, the perceiver, who is actually sitting inside the body, is interacting and engaging with the outside world through our senses, right? So the first thing is to know who we are. So when we want to get to know Krishna, just like sometimes I give this example of we can't develop a loving relationship with someone unless we know who that person is, right? So for example, take an orphan, take like a young child, and this child's parents, they happen to pass away, unfortunately, when the child was young. So then the child grows up, and maybe when the child's 15 or 16 years old, the foster parents of the child, they actually tell the child that, hey, actually, you know what? We're not your real parents. Your real biological parents were someone else. But if that's the only information that they give, then the child wouldn't care so much, right? Because, okay, fine, you're not my real parents, but still you've taken so much care of me for the last 15, 16 years, and my attachment for you is much greater, so it doesn't matter if my real parents are someone else. So he or she may say like that. But if the foster parents start to tell this child, and your real mother, she looked like this, your father looked like that, they show pictures and photos, and your father, he was interested in, I don't know, constructing toy trains, and your mother liked to bake cakes, and they start to give more details about what the original biological parents of this child was, then the child would develop more of an attachment, right? Then he'll start to inquire, oh, so who are they? Then the attraction for, his original biological family would increase. So in the same way, most religious traditions, when we think of God, we don't know who God is, and therefore we fear, right? Because if you have a dark room, then one is afraid to go into the dark room because one doesn't know what's in the dark room. So that's why transcendental knowledge or spiritual knowledge is compared to the light. Tamasi ma jyotirgama. One of the Vedic aphorisms is that get out of the darkness and go towards the light. The light is transcendental knowledge or spiritual knowledge, cultivating that knowledge about not only who you are, but who Krishna is as a person. Just like when it's nighttime, and then slowly the sun is starting to rise, and you can see the sun is rising in the horizon. Then when the sun rises, then you see not just the sun, but you see yourself as well. Right? You see two things. So in the same way, when you start to cultivate spiritual knowledge, you understand who you are, and you understand who Krishna is as well. And knowledge means understanding Krishna, understanding yourself, and your relationship with Krishna. This is the definition of knowledge. To understand yourself, your actual identity, to understand Krishna, the source of the soul, the cause of the soul's existence, and finally the interrelationship between these two personalities. This constitutes spiritual knowledge. This is what spiritual knowledge is. And this is what Bhagavad Gita is so vividly elucidating, and Krishna is explaining this, as I was mentioning, at this very start of the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita, therefore, is the undergraduate study. Then you have the graduate study, which is the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavad Gita has, does anyone know how many verses are there in the Bhagavad Gita? How many Sanskrit verses? 700 verses, spread across how many chapters? 18 chapters. Has anyone read the Bhagavad Gita entirely? Or who has heard of the Bhagavad Gita, at least? Okay, you've all heard of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, yes, you've also heard. Good. And then the Srimad Bhagavatam, the graduate study, has 18,000 Sanskrit verses spread across, not chapters, but they're called cantos, which are like mega chapters. Right? So this is the graduate study. And then we have the postgraduate study, which is the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which we won't be getting into. And then the text which actually explains our relationship with Krishna is, in Sanskrit, it's called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the nectarian ocean of devotional service to Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada has actually translated and created a summary study of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and that's what this book is, the Nectar of Devotion. So as I was explaining, in order to understand Krishna, we have to understand who Krishna is as a person, and that's why we're discussing about Krishna's qualities. One of our acharyas, acharya means like previous teachers, he explains that when we meet someone who we don't know, the first thing we do is what? What do we do when we meet someone that we don't know? Who would say? We ask the person's name. My dear sir, my dear madam, who are you? What is your name? So then the person will say, my name is so-and-so. Then after we understand the name, the next thing that we do is relate the name to the form of the person, right? Just like you may have your family members. And if you say in your mind, if you recall the name of your family members or your mother or your father or anyone or your friends, then immediately in your mind, along with the name, comes an image, at least a mental image of the form of this particular person. And once you understand or recollect the form of the person, the next thing that you can start to contemplate on is the qualities that that person has, right? The person may be courageous or bold or outgoing or introvert or whatever. You relate these different qualities that the person has to the form and also to the name. Then finally, after the qualities comes the activities or the pastimes. So that's why the most recommended process for the present day and age for self-realization is the chanting of the holy names and the mantra which has invested within it all the potencies and all the powers of all the other mantras is the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So by chanting the name of Krishna, then automatically Krishna, over a period of time, will reveal his form to the devotee. Just like here we see the form of Krishna, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. This is the Archa Vigraha form, which means the deity manifestation of Krishna. Krishna's body is fully spiritual, but our senses are not spiritualized yet. They're still material senses, and therefore we can't see spiritual things with our senses. So Krishna therefore manifests himself in the form of a vigraha, in the form of a deity, which is apparently made from material elements, but because it's Krishna and Krishna has been called to appear within that deity, and because the material energy ultimately belongs entirely to Krishna, Krishna is fully present in a spiritual way within the deity, and therefore there is also no difference between Krishna, the original spiritual form of Krishna in the spiritual world, and the deity manifestation of Krishna as well. Right, so that's the deity. But Krishna reveals through the holy name his form, and then after a period of time, then we get to understand Krishna's qualities, and then Krishna reveals his pastimes. That's why when you come to the advanced stage of chanting Hare Krishna, who's regularly chanting Hare Krishna? Yeah? You're all chanting on japa beads? Yeah? I remember when I started, or rather when my spiritual master, His Holiness Devamrita Swami, he was from uptown Manhattan, really high-class sort of society, and he was initially, this is back in maybe in the 60s actually, he was really skeptical. He was interested, but he was a bit skeptical about this mantra, meditation, and all that sort of stuff. So initially he actually started off, you know how we have the japa, the mala? It has 108 beads. He actually started off not by chanting one round of 108 beads, but he actually started off by chanting just one bead. That's it. He would just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare. And then he said, that's it. I'm done for the day. He put his bead down, and next day he tried again. So then over a period of time, because Krishna is non-different from his name, and Krishna's, the very name Krishna means all attractive. And because Krishna is absolute, his name is also therefore all attractive. So if you chant Krishna's name with sincerity and attentively listening to it, then you will also become attracted to Krishna's name. And that will take up the prime part of your day, the prime focus of your day. Just like whatever is important to you, you do it the first thing, right? You try to prioritize it in your day so it's the first thing you do. Or you set some alarms so that you don't miss doing it throughout the day. So those who are chanting Hare Krishna and they're more experienced, it is a very horrible thought to think what a day would be not chanting the holy names of Krishna. It's just not possible. You just have to do it. You can maybe, skip a meal or something like that, but we have to chant Hare Krishna. So we can't think what a day would be without us chanting Hare Krishna. So then, so in this way we understand Krishna's position. So far in discussing the qualities of Krishna, we have actually, in the past few weeks, we've already discussed the first 50 qualities of Krishna. And I'm just going to briefly go through them. So it's 50, so it's quite a lot. So just bear with me. But just before I get into that, the first 50 qualities of Krishna that we've already discussed in detail, Krishna has unlimited qualities. But these unlimited qualities may be summarized in 64 qualities. Right? So the first 50 qualities of Krishna, which are listed in the Nectar of Devotion, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, are qualities that not only Krishna has, but the individual souls, like you and I, also have. However, Krishna possesses these qualities in an unlimited degree, and we possess these qualities to a minute degree. That's the difference. So the first 50 qualities that we'll go through, we also have these qualities, but to a very minute degree. But Krishna has them to a really great, full, unlimited extent. Then from quality 51 to 55, these 5 qualities are possessed by great personalities within the universe. Personalities like Lord Shiva, and exceptional personalities like Lord Brahma, the architect or the engineer of the material universe. And then quality 56 to 60 is possessed by Lord Vishnu or Narayan, who is an expansion of Krishna. It's not Krishna directly, but is an expansion of Krishna. And the function of Lord Vishnu is to maintain the universe. And we might discuss a bit about that later on in the class. And then finally, qualities 61 to 64, these 4 qualities are possessed exclusively by Krishna. So no one else has these qualities as well. So if you have a copy of the Nectar of Devotion, I highly recommend it. It's explained that this book is actually for more advanced practitioners, but you can still read it. At least it's separated into 4 sections, and the first 2 sections, definitely anyone can read. But still, you can go on to read the whole book. So we're going to discuss from chapter 21 and chapter 22 of the Nectar of Devotion. So I'm just going to go through these qualities, the first 50, just really quickly, and if there's one that sort of stands out, might say something briefly about it. So the first one is that Krishna has beautiful features in his entire body. Quality 2, Krishna's body is marked with all auspicious characteristics. So we see that when Krishna, or rather Krishna's palms, which are known as lotus hands, and Krishna's lotus feet have different naturally occurring engravings on it, like a lotus flower, a fish, a goad, and like a thunderbolt. And all these different signs, these auspicious markings, indicate Krishna's qualities and demonstrate Krishna as being an exceptional personality. So Krishna's body has auspicious characteristics on it. Krishna is extremely pleasing. Have you noticed that? You know, Krishna is the only person where you can just go right in front of him and just keep staring at his face. Can you do that with anyone else? No? Have you tried that doing with your spouse or with your brothers or sisters, just looking at them, just staring at them? You know, but you can do that with Krishna. You can go right here in front of the altar and just gaze at Krishna's, just stare at Krishna's face. And you'll see Krishna's beautiful smile and his beautiful form, and he'll just look straight back at you and he'll just keep smiling as well. So you can just, it's up to you how long you want to do it for, because Krishna can keep doing it for forever. So Krishna is extremely pleasing. Quality 4, Krishna is effulgent. He is strong. Where did Krishna show his strength? Does something come to mind where Krishna showed his strength? Yeah? This is when he lifted up Govardhan Hill. As a little 7-year-old boy, he lifted up Govardhan Hill on the pinky of his left hand. And also one other instance where Krishna demonstrated his strength, which comes to my mind, is when Krishna was fighting with these big, humongous wrestlers in Kamsa's arena. Because Kamsa had arranged a big, sort of like a festival to try to destroy Krishna. And he put various obstacles in Krishna's path, and one of these was these huge wrestlers, Chanura and Mushtika. So Krishna was apparently a frail little boy, just, 7 or 8, at that time he was about 11 years old when he went to Mathura. And he defeated these great wrestlers, Chanura and Mushtika. So don't be fooled. Krishna looks like a very small little young boy, and indeed he is, but he possesses unlimited strength, unlimited power. So Krishna is very strong. That's quality 5. Quality 6 is that Krishna is ever youthful. Krishna is Nava Yovanam. Nava means new, Yovanam means youth. That means when Krishna came to Vrindavan, when Krishna appeared on this earthly sphere about 5,300 years ago, Krishna appeared initially as a little newborn baby, and in Krishna's body, by his own sweet will, it started to grow. And it grew and it grew and it grew through various stages until it reached the age of 16. And we often say sweet 16, right? Everyone likes to be 16 years old. So Krishna actually, his body remained at that ever youthful age of 16. So Krishna was present 5,000 years ago. He stayed like physically manifesting his pastimes for about 125, 130 years. When Krishna was fighting he was the chariot driver of Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, by material estimation, Krishna's age was roughly 90 years old. But if you see pictures of Krishna, descriptions of Krishna, you won't see a single strand of gray or white hair on Krishna's body. So Krishna is Navayovan. Even when he was that age, 90 years old by material calculations in the Battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna still appeared as if he was a 16-year-old boy. So that's why Krishna is known as Navayovan. He's eternally and ever fresh youth. Quality 7, Krishna is a wonderful linguist. And that means you can go and speak to Krishna in any language. He understands any language. Okay, so you can be French, or even within India, there's different states, they have their different languages. So if your mother tongue is something different, Krishna understands all languages. Then after linguist, quality 8, Krishna is truthful. Quality 9, Krishna talks pleasingly. This is very interesting. Krishna talks pleasingly. Many times in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's explained what Krishna's voice sounds like. The description which is given is on a monsoon day. Like, I remember when, before I joined the temple as a monk, actually, I worked for 1 year straight after university. And my company, they sent me to Malaysia. So I was working there in a company in Malaysia for like 2 months or something like that. And I was there in Malaysia during the monsoon season. And every single day, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you could see the clouds coming over the mountains. I was in a little town called Ipoh. It's like a valley. So just over the mountains, you can see every single day. You can set your watch to when the clouds are coming in. And they'll initially come in with a really mild rumbling thunder, and it sounds really pleasing. When the thunder actually comes on top of you, it's not so pleasing. But when you see them coming over the horizon, it's really pleasing. So Krishna's voice is actually compared to that. The very mild, pleasing rumbling of the thunder. It's a very grave yet pleasing voice that Krishna has. So Krishna's voice is compared to the beautiful rumbling of clouds as they're approaching over the horizon. Quality 10, Krishna is fluent. He's highly learned, highly intelligent, and a genius. So Krishna, when he was a very young boy, he went to the Gurukul. He went to learn different things, different arts, and different subjects of knowledge from his teacher. So even though Krishna is all-knowing, he still accepted a teacher just to teach us that we also need to follow some authority. Generally, people have the notion that when it comes to spiritual life, they can figure it out themselves. But what we should understand is when we study material subjects, like when we go to school and university, right, we have our textbooks, we have our tutors, we have our lecturers, we have so many different things, right? We have our exams and all that sort of stuff. And then when we pass these different things, take the help of all these things, we become qualified. Now, if that's the case with material knowledge, it's actually more so with spiritual knowledge as well, because spiritual subject matter is actually more important, because it's not just for this lifetime, but it's actually relating to our eternal identity as something beyond the body. So definitely we need textbooks like the Bhagavad Gita. We need guides like Shiksha Gurus. We need mentors like in Krishna consciousness, you may have a mentor, like we have Radha Vinod Prabhu sitting at the back there. So he's actually running some Bhakti Sangha groups. So those who are interested in actually learning Krishna consciousness, you're very new to it. So he's actually like a guide and a mentor and a teacher as well. So we need all these things, especially in spiritual life. And Krishna is really intelligent. He accepted a guru and he mastered all these subject matters in just 64 days. Something that which actually takes the first 15 years of a student's life, Krishna mastered in just 64 days. Okay, so quality 14, Krishna is artistic. 15, Krishna is extremely clever, he's expert, grateful, firmly determined. Quality 19, Krishna is an expert judge of time and circumstances. So, something that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, just like when the first atom bomb, right, was actually detonated. I forgot the name of I think Oppenheimer. His name is Oppenheimer. Yeah. So he actually quoted from the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Kalos me. Krishna says, time I am, destroyer of the worlds. So, if you can deal with time in the proper way, you're actually dealing with Krishna, because time is the energy of Krishna. You can't see time, but you can see the effects of time. And Krishna explains that he is time. And for those who don't believe in some sort of a spiritual reality, Krishna is explaining the Bhagavad Gita, then ultimately Krishna comes to them as time at the end of their life as death. So we all have to eventually surrender. We can surrender to Krishna now. It's very natural for us. That's the constitutional position of the soul, to have a loving relationship with Krishna. Or time will force us to do it at the end. So we have to learn the lesson, either in this lifetime or some future lifetime. So he's an expert judge of time and circumstances. That's why you'll see that devotees are actually expert managers of time. One of the fundamental qualities of an advanced devotee is, I forgot the Sanskrit, but it means they don't waste a single moment of time, because they understand the value of time. Right? You can't purchase a single fraction of time by spending millions of dollars, right? We say that, it's a very common saying. So devotees fully understand that. They don't let a single moment pass by without them actually engaging in some aspect of Krishna consciousness. Okay? So, quality 20. Krishna sees and speaks on the authority of the Vedas or scriptures. So even though Krishna is actually the source of all knowledge, you'll see in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna is actually describing himself to Arjuna and describing the workings of the material nature, he himself will quote authorities from the Veda, like Narada, Devala, Vyasa. These are all great rishis and sages who are authorities in the spiritual lineage. But Krishna, just to set an example for us, will also quote them as well. So it therefore goes to show that we also need to do the same thing as well, following in Krishna's footsteps. Krishna is pure. Quality 22, Krishna is self-controlled. 23, Krishna is steadfast. He's forbearing, forgiving. 26, he's grave, self-satisfied. The Sanskrit name for self-satisfied is Atma Rama. And if you read the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna, you know, Arjuna, there's actually no work that affects me. I don't need to work. I'm Atma Rama. Everyone in this world, like you and I, we're actually working because we want to achieve something. We want to feel happy. And therefore we're working in this world. Right? But Krishna, he has nothing material to obtain for himself. He has no material happiness to aspire for. He has no material relationships to aspire for. He's transcendental to the material energy. And he doesn't have any material desires. His desires are all spiritual. And therefore Krishna is, which was the quality I was explaining? Sorry? Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, so self-satisfied, sorry, Atmarama. This is actually 27, Atmarama. But Krishna says, even though I have no material work to aspire for, still I act. So why is Krishna acting? We sort of touched on that just before. Right? Krishna has no reason to act on the material platform. Still Krishna comes into the material world and he acts. Why? He says, I act to set an example. I act to set an example for all the conditioned souls in the material world, how they should be acting. Not on the material platform, but on the spiritual platform, so that they can attain their ultimate success. The ultimate success of the human form of life. Therefore Krishna acts, even though he doesn't need to act. 28, Krishna possesses equilibrium. He is magnanimous, he is religious, he is heroic. 32 is compassionate, respectful, gentle, liberal, shy. The protector of surrendered souls. 38, happy. 39, the well-wisher of devotees. Bhaktavatsala. So one of the names of Krishna is Bhaktavatsala. That means Krishna is always acting for the interests of his devotees. Another name for Krishna is Achyuta. Achyuta means one who never falls down. Now, when the battle of Kurukshetra started, before the battle of Kurukshetra started, Krishna made a vow that he would not pick up any weapon. Right? Krishna made a vow that he would not pick up anyone. He would simply act as the chariot driver of Arjuna. But nevertheless, when Arjuna's life was in danger, and Bhishma, grandsire Bhishma, was there, and he was shooting arrows, and Arjuna was in great danger, he was about to lose his life, what did Krishna do? He picked up the chariot wheel, and he raged, and he raced towards Bhishma to throw the chariot wheel at him. And he broke his promise. But why did he break his promise? Did he break it for his own sake? Fearing that he would lose his reputation? Krishna is fully truthful, right? He's the supreme absolute truth. Still here we see an instance where Krishna apparently lied. He said he wouldn't take up a weapon, yet he did take up a weapon. Right? That's because Krishna is Bhaktavatsala. Krishna is acting simply for the pleasure of his devotees. And even though Krishna acts for the pleasure of his devotees, because he's Achyuta, Achyuta means one who never falls down from his or her position, Krishna's status is not tainted in any way. One of the qualities of a warrior is that they're not supposed to flee from the battlefield. Yuddhe cha palayanam. This is mentioned in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where the different qualities of the Kshatriyas, the Brahmanas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras are mentioned. So for the Kshatriyas or the warrior class, one of the qualities is that they should not flee from the battlefield. Yet Krishna did flee from the battlefield. When Jarasandha came for the 17th time, or the 18th time rather, and then Kalayavana came, and it's explained that his army had almost 30 million barbaric soldiers in it, and they were advancing towards Mathura, the heavily fortified city of Mathura. At that time, Krishna apparently ran away from Kalayavana. Krishna came outside of the city, unarmed, wearing a beautiful garland of lotus flowers, and Kalayavana, who was the chief general of the enemy side, he thought, look, my enemy is coming out unarmed, therefore I should also put aside my sword and my bow and arrow, and I should also fight with him, hand to hand. But as Kalayavana ran after Krishna at full speed, Krishna was walking away. And Krishna was walking at such a pace that even though Kalayavana was trying to reach up to Krishna, he was just missing him, just by a fraction of an inch. And then finally the story goes, if you read it in Krishna book, he takes him to a cave and Muchukunda is there and Kalayavana. Yeah, you know the story? Right? So Krishna is Achyuta. If someone steals in this world, then such a person is frowned upon. Such a person is a burglar, is a thief, he or she may get thrown into jail. But Krishna was the biggest thief, right? Not only did he steal the butter, which was churned by the different residents in Vrindavan, but ultimately, Krishna steals everyone's heart, right? And the heart is the most intimate, possession of oneself, because that's where we hold all our deepest things. And then Krishna, in that sense, is the original Pied Piper. He comes and he steals everyone's heart just by his name, his flute playing, his beautiful form. So in that way. And then even though Krishna does these contrary things, like he steals or he runs away from the battlefield or all these different things, Krishna never falls down from his position. In fact, he's glorified for doing such things. Krishna is glorified by the name Ranachor. Ranachor means one who ran away from the battlefield. Or Makanchor, one who stole the butter. Right? So if we steal something, we get punished. Right? Or people look down upon us. Society looks down upon us. But when Krishna does it, Krishna is glorified. And he has different names which glorify that particular activity. Right? So Krishna is Achyuta and Krishna is Bhaktavatsala. Krishna, quality 38, Krishna is always happy. The well-wisher of devotees. Krishna is controlled by love. Right? Nothing can control Krishna. but Krishna allows himself to be controlled by the devotee's love. Krishna is all auspicious. Krishna is the most powerful. Krishna is all famous, popular, partial to devotees. 46, Krishna is very attractive to all women. So Krishna, one of the names of Krishna is Purushottama. Purush means male, and Uttama means the best of males. So Krishna is glorified by that name. So Krishna is the best of males. And therefore, one of the qualities of Krishna is that he's attractive to all women, but not just all women, but all living entities in general. Quality 47, Krishna is all worshipable, all opulent. 49, he's all honorable. And 50, Krishna is the supreme controller. Now, I was mentioning that these first 50 qualities not only apply to Krishna, but they also apply to us as conditioned souls as well. So one may think, how can we have the quality of supreme controller? We can have the quality of supreme controller, but within a context. Just like if you're the judge of the Supreme Court, right? You're making decisions for criminals and whatnot. So in that context, you're a supreme controller. Or someone may be the principal or the headmaster of a school. So within the context of that school, you're the supreme controller. Even though you yourself are still controlled, right? Because if the government doesn't pay you, then you wouldn't want to remain as the headmaster of that particular school, right? So we're always controlled, but within a certain context in a particular situation, we may be the supreme controller. But Krishna is the ultimate supreme controller of all time, places, and circumstances. Okay, so these are the first 50 qualities of Krishna. So these have been discussed over the last few weeks. So we're going to discuss now, at least, let's see how we go for time, but we're going to start with quality 51, and we're going to discuss to quality 55. And as I was mentioning, these qualities pertain to not just Krishna, but the supreme controllers of this universe like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. So they possess these qualities, again, not to an unlimited degree, but they also possess it to a partial degree as well. So the 51st quality out of the 64 is that Krishna is changeless. Now this is something we discussed about. Krishna is changeless in the sense that Krishna's body is always Satchit Ananda. Krishna's body doesn't age beyond a certain period of time. But more importantly, Krishna is unaffected by material situations and circumstances. No, so we're not just talking about Krishna's body, but we're talking about Krishna's mindset. Right? It's explained nowadays, if you do the research, that stress and anxiety is the second biggest disease in the Western world. So diseases are not just on the physical platform anymore, but they're in people's minds. And if it's on the physical platform, like if you don't like someone, you can easily stay away from them, right? By adjusting the material situations and circumstances. But if the enemy is your own mind, then you can't get away from your own mind because you're living with your mind all the time. That's why in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is explaining that the uncontrolled mind is one's worst enemy, and the controlled mind is one's best friend. So the whole yoga process is to fix the mind, to control the mind by focusing it on Krishna. Another name for Krishna, since we're discussing about Krishna's names and Krishna's qualities, is Manohar. You've heard of this name, Manohar? Yeah? So Man means mind, Har means one who steals, one who captures. So Krishna is that person who steals one's mind. So on this point of changeless, the point I'm trying to make is that Krishna is changeless physically, but Krishna's mindset is also changeless as well. It's not affected by external situations and circumstances. So similarly, Krishna's devotees, therefore, are also unaffected by material situations and circumstances as well. Just like we see the amazing example of Srila Prabhupada. Generally, when a person is passing away, right, in the final moments, that time is really terrible time actually, because one's organs are slowly shutting down, one's sense perceptions are being receded again, one starts to lose one's eyesight, the feeling of touch, all these sensations are going. The consciousness is, it's getting ready to leave the body. And it's explained that according to one's consciousness at the time of death, the mindset and the consciousness one has, that determines the future of the soul, if it's what sort of body it's going to take birth into. Therefore, it's advised that at the time of death, one should exclusively focus one's mind on Krishna. And the easiest way to do that is by chanting Krishna's names. That's why we see many times that when devotees are passing away from this world, other devotees will be doing a kirtan. And the last sense to go when one is passing away is the sense of hearing. So as a person is passing away at the time of death, the last sense, perceivable sensation to go is the hearing sensation. Therefore, it's advised that one should chant continuously as the person is passing away. So, Krishna is changeless. Krishna's devotees are changeless as well. And just one point I want to talk about meditation, because we're talking about the mind and fixing the mind on Krishna. Meditation basically means to control the mind by fixing it at one point. Okay? Now there's many different types and forms of meditation. Right? Like people gaze at a flame, right, on a candle, or they may gaze at some picture, or people may focus the mind by concentrating on the ingoing and the outgoing breath. This is called pranayama. And like that, there's so many different types of meditations. People meditate on a certain thought. Oh, I'm going to walk through a forest and it's really nice, I'm feeling very happy, positive affirmations, all that sort of stuff. However, here's an interesting thing. The more senses that you engage during a meditation, the more powerful your meditation will be. If you're just staring at something, and you're just meditating just by staring at one particular thing, let's say the flame of a candle, then the only sense which is being utilized in that meditation is your sense of sight. So what it means is that as you're gazing at that candle, if someone else in the background is yelling something, or if you're hungry as you're gazing at the candle, if you're hungry, and someone is saying, hey, samosas are ready, they're cooked, or whatever, then what's going to happen? Because your ears are open and they're not engaged, then you're going to get distracted because your ears are not engaged, right? Or if you're breathing, just like yogis, they sit with their eyes half closed so that they don't fall asleep. They don't close them fully so that they don't fall asleep. They don't open them fully as well, because if they open them, then they'll see all the things, visual things, and that'll distract them. So if you're just focusing on your breathing, then as I just explained, your eyesight is not engaged as well. Therefore, if something passes your way, you'll get distracted from that form of meditation as well. So that form of meditation which engages all of your senses is the best form of meditation. And that form of meditation, as is recommended, is the chanting of the holy names of Vishnu or Krishna or Hare. Take, for example, when we're chanting japa, when we're chanting on our beads, right? What senses are engaged? Our oratory sense, the tongue is engaged, right? We're engaging our sense of touch as well, because we're fingering the beads. We can engage our sense of sight by chanting in front of a beautiful picture of Krishna, or many times you'll see devotees are coming to the temple and they're chanting in front of the beautiful deities of Shri Radha Gopinath as well. Our sense of hearing is obviously engaged as well, because we're attentively hearing the holy name. We can also engage our sense of smell. For example, if you come to the temple during the arati, you'll see that the pujaris are offering incense, right? We offer flowers to Krishna. So many times I've seen that as devotees are chanting as well, they have some prasadam of flowers, and from time to time they'll smell the flowers as well, which have been offered to Krishna. So in this way we can engage all of our senses while we're chanting Hare Krishna. That's why this mantra meditation, or japa meditation, and kirtan as well, is a very powerful form of meditation. because it engages all of our senses. And when all of our senses are engaged in Krishna, then we remain changeless. Our mindset is changeless. It's fixed on Krishna. So this is the 51st quality that Krishna has. Krishna is changeless. Other demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, they have that quality of changelessness. Like, for example, it's explained that the lifetime of Brahma is 355 trillion years. That's how long Brahma lives for. So relative to us, we can say that Brahma is quite changeless. He's, in that sense, immortal, or, death doesn't affect him. But of course, to Brahma, who lives in Satyaloka, the highest material planet in the universe, for him, these 355 trillion years are just like 100 years. Just like 100 years, what 100 years feels to us, 355 trillion years by our calculations, is just like 100 years for Lord Brahma as well. So everything is relative in the material world, right? So the only real chainless person is Krishna. Quality 52, Krishna is all cognizant. So what does cognizance mean? Does anyone know what cognizant means? No? Cognizant means to know something, right? To be in knowledge of something. So Krishna is all cognizant means that Krishna is the knower of everything. Why? Because Krishna is present in the heart of everyone as the Paramatma. We understand the absolute truth as having 3 different levels. One can understand Krishna as being the all-pervasive energy that we see around us. If you study primitive cultures, I don't know if you could call them primitive, they're actually quite advanced, but very naturally living cultures. Like take, for example, the indigenous cultures of Australia or Native America, like that. Then you'll see that they actually worship nature and the land and the waters and all these different elements. So what they're seeing is they're trying to attribute the supreme quality, the quality of the supremeness or the absolute within Mother Nature. Because Mother Nature is so great, right? If there's an eclipse in the sky or if there's a thundering clouds or something like that, people get scared, right? So they attribute that quality of God to Mother Nature, to energy. And that's a very primitive way of understanding the absolute truth as Brahman, as the all-pervading energy. Then one can understand Krishna as Paramatma. Paramatma means Krishna actually has expanded himself into the hearts of every single living entity. So he's the super soul. Just like your soul is actually present only in your body, and my soul is present in my body. Therefore, I can only understand what's going on in my body, and you can understand the feelings, thoughts, emotions, desires only within your body. You can't really understand what's going on in another person's body, what they're feeling. But Krishna, the same person Krishna, has expanded himself and is present in the hearts of every single living entity. Therefore, Krishna can understand your deepest thoughts, desires, everything. And that's actually a good thing. We may think it's not such a good thing because in the material world we want to try to enjoy separately from Krishna, try to hide away from Krishna and enjoy separately from him. But actually it's not possible. Just like, when a young teenager has an argument with their parents or something like that, and he says, okay, that's it, I'm running away from home. So he goes, and then because he's actually dependent, he or she is actually dependent on the parents, right? Because the parents are probably giving some allowance, some pocket money or something like that, and they're actually buying food using the parents' money. So the parent knows that after a period of time, this person's going to come back anyway. So he has sort of like a leash. So Krishna, in the same way, he's got like a leash on us. And that's a good thing. Because when we're struggling and suffering, if we actually decide to turn towards Krishna, Krishna is there within our hearts, he'll immediately enlighten us by sending us a guru, by appearing as the Archa Vigraha form, by giving us the association of devotees. One of the things we do is book distribution. So many times I meet people on the street when we're distributing books like the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. And many times people will say, it's amazing, it's like a coincidence. I've heard of the Bhagavad Gita, and I was really desiring to read it, and all of a sudden, you just bump into me in the middle of the street, anywhere, Central Station, Town Hall, some suburb like Burwood or something like that, and bang, the Bhagavad Gita is in their hands. How did you know? I was looking for something in life. I was going through a really tough time. So this is the workings of the super soul. So Krishna is guiding us on our journey, on our sojourn through the material world according to our desires. That's why we should cultivate the proper desires. Not material desires, but spiritual desires. Right? So in that sense, Krishna is all-cognizant. And another example is given here in the Nectar of Devotion regarding Krishna's cognizance. And this is the example of Durvasa's Muni to the house of the Pandavas. If you remember this story from the Mahabharata. So what happened once is that Durvasa Muni, he's a really great sage, but he has one disqualification. He gets angry too easily. Durvasa Muni, he gets angry too quickly. They're a very angry personality, short-tempered personality. So what happened is that Duryodhana, we all know Duryodhana, the sort of like the prince of the Kauravas, inimical towards the Pandavas. So he knew that the Pandavas had finished taking their lunch. So he told Durvasa, why don't you go and take lunch with your 10,000 disciples at the house of the Pandavas? And as I was mentioning, Duryodhana knows clearly that they've just finished their lunch. Still, he says, go, you can go, you're invited. So there he is, Durvasa Muni is walking towards the house of the Pandavas along with his 10,000 disciples to take lunch. And Draupadi, the wife of the Pandavas, is totally freaking out. How am I going to cook for 10,001 people, in such short notice? They have this Akshay Patra, they have this special pot which was given to them. And this pot could actually produce an unlimited supply of food. But until Draupadi went because first the Pandavas would take the food, the 5 Pandavas, and then their wife, Draupadi, she would take. And after she would take, then that sort of potency would go away. And actually, Draupadi had actually finished taking her lunch as well. So then Krishna appears on the scene, and he asks Draupadi, so, can you just give me whatever little food you have left? And some people say that there's a little grain of rice left. And Srila Prabhupada is saying here that there was a little fragment of some vegetable preparation. Just something stuck at the bottom of the pot. And Krishna actually took that and he put it on his tongue and he ate it. Now because Krishna's, present everywhere, is in the hearts of everyone, he satisfies everyone. So when Krishna ate that and he was satisfied by the devotion of the Pandavas, what actually happened is that all the 10,000 disciples of Durvasa Muni, including Durvasa Muni himself, became so full with satisfaction that they dared not to enter the house of the Pandavas, fearing that I'm so full already, if I go there and they serve me lunch again, then I will displease the Pandavas, I will offend the Pandavas. So they actually turned course and they actually went some other way. So this is an example of Krishna's all-cognizance. Krishna knew that this was actually happening, this situation was going to come, and the Pandavas would be put in a very precarious situation. And therefore Krishna appeared there on the scene and he displayed his quality of all cognizance. So the 53rd quality, we're coming to 6 o'clock, is that Krishna is ever fresh. Krishna is ever fresh. Now one thing, just a personal thing. When I see the face of Gopinath, we can all have our personal relationship with Gopinath, So when I was young, starting out in bhakti, when I used to look at the beautiful, enchanting face of Gopinath, I was reminded of the birth of a little baby calf in Vrindavan. So I went to Vrindavan in 2014 for the first time, and there, in a little Goshala that we visited, there was a little baby calf, pure white baby calf, which just had taken birth. And the mother was licking the calf and all that sort of stuff. And I was just staring at the beautiful face of this calf. And I think to myself, every time I see Gopinath's face, if you actually come here and look very closely at Gopinath's face, his face is of course it's much more beautiful, but it may be compared. It may be compared to the beautiful face of a newborn baby calf, like that. So the point I'm trying to make is that Krishna is ever fresh. And here Srila Prabhupada is mentioning Krishna is always remembered and his name is always chanted by millions of devotees. But the devotees never become satiated, right? All we're doing is just chanting 3 names, Hare, Krishna, and Rama. If you go out and talk to some person out on the street or some materialist and you say, look, all we do every day is we just get up in the morning and for 2 hours we just chant 3 names over and over again. They'll think you're pretty crazy, right? How is it possible? Just 3 names. The sweetest sound to the ears of anyone is the sound of their own name. Did you notice that? Yeah? Just like when 2 people are talking about you and you're not there, you're somewhere nearby, but you hear someone is talking about you, your ears start to twitch and you're like, hey, someone is talking about me, let me hear. Right? So we're very attached to our own name. But even your own name, how long can you keep chanting it? Isn't it? Just like, what is your name, sir? Prakash. So how long can you keep saying Prakash, 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 Prakash? Not very long, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You get bored of it, right? So, but Krishna's name is not like that. Krishna, his name is a mantra, and mantra means a spiritual sound vibration. So Krishna's name has the opposite effect. The more you chant material sound vibrations, the more trite, hackneyed, banal they'll sound. They'll lose their meaning. You might have had experience of that as well. When you keep saying a word over and over again, over a period of time, it just loses meaning. You know, it's like, what am I saying? It feels like that. So it's the opposite effect with mantra. The more you chant Krishna's names, the more attached and attracted you'll become to Krishna's names. You'll start to develop a relationship to Krishna's names. So devotees can do that actually. That's why devotees are able to chant over and over again Krishna's names and they still don't feel satiated. They still don't feel satiated. And not just Krishna's names, but Srila Prabhupada is explaining, but Krishna's knowledge is ever fresh as well. Bhagavad Gita, which was imparted 5,000 years ago, is still being read repeatedly by many, many people, and still new light is always being found in it. Therefore, Krishna and his name, fame, qualities, and everything in relationship with him is ever fresh. And Srila Prabhupada is giving one example regarding the queens at Dwarka. Now, the queens at Dwarka are expansions, or rather, they are also the goddesses of fortune, just like Lakshmi. They are Lakshmi Devis as well. And one of the qualities of Lakshmi is that she is chanchal. What is chanchal? Chanchal means very flickering. She's always going from one place to another place. But because Krishna is so attractive, Krishna is such a great person, Lakshmi Devi, who's usually chanchal, and when we say chanchal, let's give the example of, let's say, money. Right? Sometimes you have money and sometimes you lose money, because money is an expansion, a material expansion of Lakshmi Devi. You may see the typical Hindu photos of Lakshmi, and she's sitting there and money is just coming out of her palms like that, right? So this is a material expansion of Lakshmi. So sometimes someone might become a millionaire, and then the person might squander the money and then he'll lose the money. So Lakshmi comes and Lakshmi goes as well. But with Narayan or Krishna or Vishnu, Lakshmi stays. She stays as the I forgot the name. Srivatsa. Srivatsa, yeah. She stays as the Srivatsa. Lakshmi Devi stays as a little line, a white line on Krishna's chest. And then, whenever is the appropriate time, she manifests herself as Lakshmi and she renders service to Krishna as well. So, because Krishna has all these great qualities, Lakshmi Devi, who's actually chanchal, who's actually going from one place to another, when she's used by materialistic people, with Krishna she stays in one place. So in this way Krishna is ever fresh. So we have the next speaker, Hemang Chaitanya Prabhu, is coming into the room. So we'll just finish up. So today we discussed gave a summary of the first 50 qualities of Krishna, and then we began talking about quality 51, 52, and 53, which was changeless, all cognizant, and ever fresh. And these are qualities which are possessed by great personalities within the universe, as well as Krishna. And these great personalities are people like Brahma and Shiva. So there's 64 in total, so we'll continue with these qualities over the weeks. But just one quick announcement before Prabhu starts giving his class, is that we are having the 50th anniversary celebrations. The restrictions have been lifted, from what I heard. So I think the only restriction, however, is still the number of people within the temple. So that's, I think, about 35. So we'll be having a 5-day festival from May the 22nd to the 26th, which I think starts this Saturday. And we'll be having different events on each one of the days. So there's like a bus tour organized on the first or second day. So that will be published very soon on our Facebook page, what's going to happen on each day. So the bus tour will go to various temples, previous temples of Radha Gopinath. There's a Julian Yatra, there's a 50-hour kirtan, there's various Srimad Bhagavatam classes given by senior devotees, etc. And every day there's a really nice feast in the evening like that as well. So we'd like to encourage devotees to please come and participate. And if you'd like to, there's also sponsorship opportunities as well. It's Radha Gopinath's 50th anniversary, so it's like a birthday celebration. So if you'd like to get them a birthday present, we have flyers and posters for that outside as well, if you'd like to make a donation for that as well. So that starts on May the 22nd for 5 days. So thank you very much. We'll finish here. And if you still have time, I really encourage you to please stay for the next class as well. So that'll go till 7, and then we'll have Gaur Arati. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.